The path to really scale isn't actually massive audience, it's multiple specific audiences. Think about your marketing angle as a Venn diagram. On one side, you have all your product benefits. On the other side, you have a specific customer's desire. Your angle lives in the overlap, where your specific benefits meet their specific desires. What if I told you that every single purchase decision that your customers make starts from one fundamental psychological principle? And if you master this principle, you can scale your marketing in ways that most businesses never even consider. And today, I'm going to break down that psychology behind why some ads convert at 2 to 3x higher rates than others. And it all comes down to understanding one thing about human nature. So I've been diving deep into consumer psychology lately, specifically looking at what separates high-performing marketing campaigns from the ones that fall flat. And what I've discovered is that most businesses are approaching, I think, their messaging completely backwards. They're talking about features and benefits when they should be talking about something much more fundamental, which is, I think, that human desires and what I would say is self-interest. Now, I would say before you think I'm being cynical or maybe a little bit anti the world or anti-human, let me explain what I mean by self-interest, because it's not maybe what you think. The fundamental truth is that I actually believe every human action stems from self-interest to a certain degree. Now, that doesn't mean that people are selfish. I think selfish and self-interest, there's actually a difference between selfishness and someone that is self-interested. Maybe you think about the most compassionate person that you know, maybe your mom or someone like Gandhi or Mother Teresa. Even their seemingly selfish actions are actually driven by their personal values and desires for what constitutes, what they think is a meaningful life, right? So they're acting on their desire to live according to their values, which might include helping others, right? So I think that is self-interest, that their own self-interest is driving their actions in their life. And this self-interest manifests itself through our desires. The desires that you have are constantly present, driving every decision that you make, either consciously or subconsciously. And whether those are from your biology, social conditioning, any rational thought, it doesn't necessarily matter, especially when it comes to marketing, is recognizing that desires are at the driver's seat of decision making. And I think the key insight is if desires drive decisions, then as a marketer, your job, you must speak to desires to influence purchasing decisions. Now, I know this might sound manipulative. I've I've definitely been, or even felt this myself at times, where like, are we just manipulating people into driving our clients' products? There is a place in the marketplace, even as a Christian, as a person of faith. Sometimes I've had this inner turmoil with that. But I actually think there's not only just a ethical way, I think there's a right way to approach this. And I think obviously your job isn't to exploit people or to lie to people. And ultimately, I think people reap what they sow, right? If you have a terrible product and you convince them on an ad to buy that product, ultimately it all works out in the end. Like your brand is not going to exist, or that is going to catch up to you. But going with a positive more view, like our job at Kynship, your job is to clearly communicate how your product delivers on promises that align with their desires. So if you're creating products that actually solve problems, right? Like I think this is what we're talking to, people that are listening to this, that actually add value, then your responsibility is to communicate those benefits as effectively as possible to the people who need them most. And so I'll give you an example. I'm a huge CrossFitter. I would say not a huge CrossFitter in the sense that I'm barely any good, but I just love it. I think it's really challenging. It's hard. So I'll use an example within CrossFit. So if you're even outside of CrossFit, but just like a fitness person, if you're selling a recovery supplement to two different CrossFit enthusiasts, person A is, let's just say my age, 34, and maybe he's single. He's hitting new personal records every week. He's entering competitions. He's looking to maximize performance. His anxiety centers around how can I get as best as possible, as fast as possible, right? That is maybe he's 34, maybe he's 22, in that range, 25 to 35, let's just say. How can I get as best as possible, as fast as possible? He is the prototypical, I'm going to go to the gym every single day, and young. Person B is 70 years old, married, borderline retired. He's not trying to set records anymore. He's trying to just maintain health. His anxiety centers around, how do I just stay healthy as long as possible without getting hurt? He's thinking about grandkids. He's thinking about his joints. He's thinking about maintaining what he has rather than trying to maximize it. He's not trying to hit PRs or get a one rep max deadlift, right? So same product, same basic fitness interest in the bucket of CrossFit, completely different desires driving that potential purchase. So for the 25 to 35-year-old, your messaging might focus on faster muscle recovery for better performance and quicker gains, right? For the 70-year-old, it's about reducing soreness or, hey, extending your health beyond your years, right? You could create the alternative to both these scenarios is what I see most brands doing, which is a generic ad talking about the ingredient profile, and maybe it speaks to both parties. And honestly, that might work for actually some people, but you'll actually sell significantly more by speaking directly to each person's specific desires. And I think this plays out extremely well, right? And we've seen this play out with real brands that we work with, right? So take fitness equipment company, Animal House Fitness. They make monkey feet. They sell the home gym equipment. Their hero product is being able to touch a dumbbell or any other close to the kettlebell onto your foot. And you can do something with, you can do leg lifts, you can do hamstring curls on an individual basis rather than relying on that machine. So obviously two completely different types of buyers. First, you have the serious home gym builder, right? Like someone converting their garage into a full training facility. You have someone that's like falling knees over toes. They're obsessed with durability, weight capacity. Then you have the busy parent who just wants to squeeze in some quick workouts when the kids are asleep, right? They care about space efficiency. They care about how quietly equipment operates, whether they can store it away easily. Same products, same squat rack, same weights, same garage gym builder experiences, but those products as, basically commercial grade equipment for serious training, while the busy parent experiences them as fitness solutions that fit their lifestyle without taking over their home. When brands start creating separate messaging streams for each customer type, you're going to see that your conversion rate plays very, very differently. And so this brings us to a crucial distinction, which is objective versus subjective benefits, right? Your product has objective features, its materials, specifications, the specific qualities, maybe ingredients. But customers experience these benefits subjectively based on their unique desires. So the monkey feet has the same weight capacity, same dimensions for everybody, right? But the serious lifter, the bodybuilder, experiences this in a very different way than the busy parent of just staying healthy and trying to get in a 15-minute workout after the kids go down. I'll give you another example. Know the team over at Cork Skull very well. Premium drinkware company. I've had the pleasure of working with Simple Modern. On the surface, they're selling the same insulated bottles and tumblers, right? Same stainless steel, same temperature retention technology. I doubt very seriously that technology is very, very different. I mean, it reminds me of my days at Kalo, right? The silicone wedding ring. For us to say, oh, our silicone is 10% stronger than, the $5 on Amazon was silly. The huge distinguisher of Kalo was the marketing, was the ambassadors, was the influencers that we were partnering with. It was the marketing that elevated the brand. So going back to Simple Modern or Cork Skull, you got to think about who's buying these products and why. You've got the outdoor enthusiast that maybe buys the Yeti, but maybe, is convinced around Cork Skull, hiking trips, camping adventures. Their desires about durability, performance, but then you got the office professional who just wants desk accessories to look aesthetically pleasing during Zoom calls, right? That keeps the coffee hot. Their desires about style, convenience, they're going to buy every different SKU. So same insulated drinkware, but one customer experiences it through the lens of adventure. The other experiences versus just daily ritual. And that messaging works. Each group is completely different. So If you think about your marketing angle as a Venn diagram, on one side you have all your product benefits. On the other side, you have a specific customer's desire. Your angle lives in the overlap, where your specific benefits meet their specific desires. And I would say that has how you meet their subjective desire. So in order to find these angles, you need to dig deeper into more demographics. You need to listen to customer reviews, customer testimonials. You need to start speaking to your customers. I think this is the biggest thing that maybe things like post-purchase surveys give a lot of attention to. You need to pay attention to the language they use, the problems they mention, the outcomes that they celebrate. Each review potentially represents a larger segment of customers with similar desires. Now, I think here's the counterintuitive part. Once you're achieving greater scale, you need to think ultimately a little bit, you need to get more specific, not more broad. And so most people think, targeting everyone will give them the maximum reach. Obviously, we're big fans of broad targeting. But when it comes to messaging and how your ad speaks to that, this is why you need creative diversity. You need to be able to say, hey, Meta, I want you to put this in front of many different types of people, but ultimately I want the ad creative to be an ad for everybody. And that's where different messaging, different hooks, different styles of content can actually reach a ton of different people. So the path to really scale isn't actually massive audience. It's multiple specific audiences, and you can create different angles. One angle for the performance focused 25 to 35-year-old, another for the 65, 70-year-old, another for the busy professional, another for, the busy mom, right? Each angle converts better within a specific audience. So your job is not to try to manipulate the machine on the back end to try to force Meta towards these specific audiences, but basically say, hey, each of these creatives speak to these different audiences, and I trust Meta to put that in front of the most relevant people. And now as you add all these different angles together, you're getting more total conversions than any more just one ad generic approach that any of that could deliver. So I think number one, this starts with auditing your existing customer base. You need to look for patterns in reviews, your support tickets, your customer feedback. You need to ask for your post-purchase surveys. You need to go through that data, or at least put someone on your team to go through that data. What are the different types of people that are drawn to your product? What different outcomes are they seeking, right? And map each of these desires out. Don't just look at what they buy. Look at why they bought it. Understand why they bought the product. What are they anxious about? What do they care about? What are they hoping for, right? And then you need to create specific messaging for each group, right? What is the message, and what is the ad creative that is going to speak to different products and different angles, and maybe of the same product? And I would just start with your hero SKU first, and then you can expand from there. And then ultimately it comes down to testing and iterating, right? You can start with your, top 3 clearest customer segments and create dedicated campaigns or ad sets. But really what my biggest suggestion is, try to expand your creative diversity. Everybody's talking about creative volume. Everybody's talking about creative diversity without necessarily defining what that means. Essentially, you just want an ad for everybody. And you don't know necessarily what people are going to buy, but the goal is you can only do as much research as you can. Obviously, as you grow, as you scale, you're going to find other reasons why people buy. Your job is to research, to find that information, and then to have content around those specific things. Because remember, we're talking about desires. We're talking about people that are buying products ultimately because of their own self-interest, either to look better, to feel better, to sleep better, et cetera, right? And these fuel, and they are intensely personal. See each person. They're, I have a 2-year-old daughter, right? Like when we're going through sleep training, I just want my child to sleep, and I will buy products. And this is the nature of every parent, right? Like that's why a sleep industry for parents is a bajillion-dollar industry. And that desire is intensely strong and actually deeply personal, because it becomes about their kid, and also 2, it becomes about their sleep. And you pair those things together, that is a very strong desire. So that is exactly why specific messaging can scale. Individual desires cluster around the common human experience. And so the businesses that ultimately every business wants to win at scale, they're not necessarily what I'm saying, just creating more ads, creating more volume, right? They're creating more relevant ads. They're doing deep dive into research, understanding why their customers are buying. And if they're discovering new ways that they're buying, even just from one purchase, is there a piece of creative that can also create this at scale? And so they understand our best brands, our best clients, and the best brands that I talk to in the sales cycle understand that it's not generic, but it's specific. And so again, your homework is to figure out your customer segments, identify specific desires within each, and then create messaging, create content, figure out content angles that can speak directly to those desires, and then test it. So a little bit of a different angle, a little bit more psychology, a little bit more getting out of the weeds of ad account and targeting and et cetera, and creative and cost caps. But more so, let's think about marketing psychology, right? Why are people buying? Ultimately, it's about their own self-interest. It's about their desires. And so your job as a marketer is to speak to those desires and as many as possible and as many specific desires as possible. So drop a comment with your biggest insight from this episode. Let me know what your customer segments are going to focus on. I read every comment. And ultimately, this informs future episodes. If you found this interesting, like, subscribe. Let me know. And as available, always on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, here on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you would like to find Cody at kynship.co. There's some email. Anywhere on the internet, you can find me. I'm always happy to answer your questions. And I will see you in the next episode.